April's over, you know what that means. I read a heck of a lot more books. So yes, I'm continuing my what I read each month tradition. I tend not to give spoilers, just kind of give like a broad thing, but there will be some things, so beware. I read 5 books this month. The first book I read was actually an audiobook. It was The Silent Patient. This was my first ever audiobook I've ever listened to. My mom and I listened to it on spring break, on our drive there, and I loved it. This book was so intense. It did have a couple of boring parts, but overall it was like a huge mystery and bunches of plots. The twist at the end literally made me question my whole life, my existence, and he didn't give an epilogue or anything, so I'm like, where are they now? What is happening? It's about this one girl, Alicia, and she kills her husband, shoots him like 5 times in the head, and they find him, and she's arrested, and she won't talk at all. Like, she has not said a word since he died, and she was a painter. This guy, I can never remember his name. Theo is what is he? He's a psychoanalyst, and he goes to figure out why Alicia will not talk, because she got admitted to a asylum place because she will not talk. And so he tries to figure out the mystery behind it, and did she really kill her husband? So the whole thing is in Theo's point of view, but there are some chapters that are in Alicia's diary. Theo continued to work with Alicia to try to get her to talk. And, she is bat crazy. I think everyone in that place is absolutely crazy. They all have weird childhoods, and they have weird trauma, terrible trauma, but they're just, I don't know, they're weird. Theo becomes basically a detective and goes into her personal life and talks to a bunch of her aunts and uncles and friends and co-workers to see if he can figure out why she won't talk. And it's just crazy. I've never read a book like that before. I guess I read Verity, and it was sort of a psychological thriller, but this one was crazy. Anyway, the book just ends on a giant cliffhanger. Everything is connected, but also you're very confused, or I was personally very confused, and I had to rethink and honestly replay parts of the book and be like, wait, so that's why they did that. Psychological everything. I gave this book 4 stars. It was absolutely incredible. There were a few parts, like I said, where it was kind of drawn out, kind of boring. The next book I read is actually a physical book, and it is Icebreaker, and this is by Hannah Grace, and this is absolutely crazy on Book Talk, and I finally got my hands on it, and it is spicy. I mean, it is a lot spicier than what I was thinking, but it is still a warm, feel-good book. It just, it's a quick read. It's you lying on the beach, you read it, or if it's storming outside. It's really easy to follow along. The characters are all so funny, so sweet. So this is a college romance, and it's enemies to lovers. Anastasia, right there, she is an ice skater, and Nate, he is a hockey player, and they have 2 different rinks on the college, one for hockey and one for ice skating. And one of the rinks gets closed down because the kids from their rival team messed it up or whatever. So they have to share a rink. And she immediately hates them because she's like, oh, you did this purposely. I have a competition coming up. It's all your fault. So that's kind of the enemies part. They kind of keep this rival going throughout their practices. And then they go to a party, and their attraction kind of hits it off. Love how close she is with all of his friends. It is so funny. There's a sort of underlying villain. One of her good friends, Aaron, he's so manipulative. You'll learn if you read the book. He just goes crazy, and it's kind of revealed how really bad of a friend he is, and so they kind of have to work together through that, and he kind of helps her. The author really indicates the importance of having friends and trusting people, and how it's okay to ask for help. The character development is really strong in each character. Sassy at the beginning is just so rude and kind of hateful towards everyone. At the end, she's a bright, cheery sunshine. I really like this book. It didn't take long to read, so I gave it 4 stars. The last 3 books I read are all literally the ACOTAR series. I'm on the last one, the big one, the 800 pager. I'm like more than halfway through, but I absolutely love ACOTAR with all of my heart. I love all of the characters. So the last 3 books I read are, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, and A Court of Frost and Starlight. Love them, I love them, I love them. I cannot explain how much I love them. If you haven't read the first book, none of these are going to make sense, so I'm so sorry. I read A Court of Mist and Fury, and this is following Feyre and Rysand's love story. I cannot say their names, so I say Rysand. People say Rysand. I say Rysand. That's just how my brain works. I'm so sorry if I say the names wrong. They're really hard to pronounce. The ending of this book had my jaw on the literal floor. The last 100, 200 pages are so freaking intense. There are so many things that happen, and it's crazy. Read this right now. So many plot twists. I was literally reading this so fast, just going like page to page. I literally could not put it down. With Feyre is still living with Tamlin after the villain in the previous book, and she has a bargain with Rysand where every 6 months or something she has to come and stay with him. He hasn't broken in the deal yet, and so Tamlin and Feyre are about to get married, and then all of a sudden Feyre's like, please help me, I do not want to marry this man. She has changed after the villain, and so Rysand strikes his deal at the moment of the wedding and saves her from the wedding, and Tamlin and Feyre kind of fall apart or grow apart. Things start happening with Rysand, and I absolutely love Feyre and Rysand. There is a new villain. His name is Hybern, the Prince King of Hybern or whatever. And he has this thing called a cauldron, and it has a lot of power, and he's trying to bring down the wall between the humans and the Fae, which is not a good thing because the Fae will kill the humans and the humans will kill the Fae. So the romance is definitely a slow burn, like a slow freaking burn. Characters revealed and like stories and lots of character development, which I really like. I absolutely love this book. I gave this 5 stars. So of course the next book I read was A Court of Wings and Ruined. I don't know why, but my lips don't want to say wings, they want to say rings. And can we just talk about how much this book like is just like bendy? Like it's just so like bendy. Like can you see that? Like it's just so like flip-floppy. While this one's like very stiff, you know, like you have to like hold it open. This one, it's why aren't all books made like this? Like it's so floppy, like you don't crack the spine at all, like it's perfect. Like hello, are you kidding me? Yes, this is what I want. This was definitely the war book. There is a giant war that goes on the whole time. They're trying to strategize because of the King of Hybern. The battle scenes were so freaking intense and detailed, and my eyes were like this the whole time I was reading. I was just flipping through the pages. I literally could not stop. This series, there's always something happening. I absolutely love it. The story starts with Feyre back at Tamlin's because there was something from the last book and she had to like lie her way back to Tamlin, but she's still with the Night Court, but she has to like deceive Tamlin. She deceives him and then she finally goes back to Rysand and all of her friends. It was so sad to see how badly messed up Elaine and Nesta were, which is her sisters. They go through a lot of trauma. There are lots of like hidden romances and plots and allies and enemies. The final scene was so intense. There are so many like popular ACOTAR book quotes from this book. There were like so many sentimental like quotes and conversations that literally hit my soul, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so relatable. And I just love that. I just love this book. I loved how it shared the like importance between friends and family, as well as like connections and how helping people can really help you later. So I gave this 5 stars. So the last book I read was A Court of Frost and Starlight, and this is like a tiny little novella. This one was not my favorite of this series. It was definitely the lowest rated, but I still really liked it. TV shows have filler episodes. This felt like a filler episode, but it was still really cute. It felt the most like a warm hug. All the other books are like intense, and this one's very chill. There's not a lot happening. They're getting ready for winter solstice, which is basically Christmas. They just give each other presents. So they're just trying to figure out like what to get each other. I kind of like it because you could get a feel for how the characters act when there's not like a crazy enemy. This is also the first book that goes into other people's point of views, and you're like, oh, so that's why they do that, because this is how they think of themselves in their heads, you know? So yeah, I give it 3 stars. There's not really much to tell about it. It's just they have Christmas. This is just a Christmas book, but I still liked it. Those were all of the books I read. It was mostly ACOTAR, 1 audiobook. But thank you so much for watching. Go read a book or two. I definitely recommend it. Bye!